Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in the Australian state of Victoria say that a young woman is fighting for her life this week, and her alleged attacker has also been hospitalized with serious injuries after she was the victim of a terrifying arson attack that was apparently the result of an argument over a stolen scooter. According to reports, police were alerted to the incident at approximately 6:30 p.m. on January 15th, when they received a call about a violent altercation between two women in the city of Shepparton. They arrived to find the 20-year-old victim in the middle of a harrowing situation. She had been set on fire, with witnesses saying that her entire head was engulfed in flames. Emergency responders managed to put out the fire with a garden hose, at which point the 20-year-old was airlifted to a hospital in Melbourne in critical condition. The 20-year-old's alleged attacker, identified as 33-year-old Jordan Spencer, was reportedly found not far from the crime scene. She was airlifted to the hospital as well after she was also found to be suffering from serious injuries related to the attack. While the exact details of what unfolded still have yet to be confirmed, neighbors in the area who allegedly witnessed the incident say that it started over a motorized scooter that belonged to the 20-year-old victim. Earlier that day, Spencer allegedly stole the victim from the 20-year-old, who later traveled to Spencer's home and began to throw things at her house before she came outside and confronted her. A fight broke out, and that's when Spencer apparently set the 20-year-old on fire before attempting to flee the scene. At the time of this recording, both women's conditions are unclear. The situation is still developing. Officials in Nigeria's Oyo state say that at least 3 people are dead this week and dozens of others are injured following a terrifying explosion that rocked the suburbs of one of the country's largest cities. According to reports, the blast occurred at approximately 7:45 p.m. on January 16th in the city of Ibadan. Residents were going about their normal evening activities when the explosion happened entirely without warning, leveling buildings and sending survivors scrambling for their lives. While authorities are still in the early stages of figuring out exactly what happened and are primarily concerned with assessing the damage and rescuing victims who still might be trapped in the rubble, the state's governor has come out and said that officials do believe they know the main cause of the blast. They allege that it was the result of a large amount of explosives which were being improperly stored at a private residence by suspects engaged in illegal mining. If you're a regular viewer of our Crimes of the Week International series, you'll likely remember that we've covered stories related to illegal mining in Nigeria several times before. These illicit operations are an ongoing problem for the resource-rich nation, which estimates that it loses nearly $9 billion a year to illegal miners. Of course, as this week's incident proves, it's not just the financial costs that officials are concerned about. These activities are also highly dangerous. At the time of this recording, 3 people have been confirmed dead as a result of this week's explosion, and at least 77 others have been reported injured. Many others have now been left homeless, with the government saying it will provide temporary accommodation to those affected. They have also promised to bring those responsible to justice. As for the source of the blast, authorities say they believe it was a house in the city's Bodija district. A witness who narrowly survived the incident told local news sources that he had seen a fire break out next door and ran over to help. He says he was told that the fire was too large to be handled by the fire extinguisher that he brought over, and had just enough time to make it back out before the stash of illegal explosives detonated. The man further claims that the people living in the residence were foreign nationals from Senegal and Namibia, and had been living there since 2013. However, so far these statements have not been confirmed by investigators. The situation is still developing. Authorities in Greece say that they are investigating the assassination of a well-known underworld figure this week after he was brutally gunned down in dramatic fashion, a crime that was partially captured by CCTV cameras. The incident took place in the early morning hours of January 14th at a gas station in Athens' Neos Cosmos neighborhood. In footage of the incident, which was allegedly leaked to the media by police officers, 44-year-old crime boss Vangelis Zambounis can be seen walking to his armored BMW, which is parked nearby. After he gets inside, another vehicle pulls up behind him. Two men, each armed with rifles, get out and proceed to unleash a hail of bullets on both sides of the BMW. One of the gunmen appears to finish off Zambounis by pulling out a handgun and opening up the driver's side door of the BMW, firing one more shot at close range. The two suspects then flee in the Lexus. In all, authorities say more than 90 rounds were fired during the killing. According to reports, the getaway vehicle was found burnt out on the outskirts of the city. It was quickly determined that both the Lexus and the license plates it had been equipped with were stolen. Understandably, the dramatic incident has captured a lot of media attention across Greece in recent days, especially after the CCTV footage was leaked to the media. The two officers allegedly responsible for the leak have since been arrested and are expected to face charges. Due to Zambounis' alleged role as the leader of an organized crime group engaged in extortion and cigarette and fuel smuggling, there are no shortage of theories currently circulating as to the motive behind his murder. In fact, it's been reported that the 44-year-old survived at least one other attempt on his life back in 2018. In that instance, he managed to escape after his would-be assassin's weapon malfunctioned. One popular theory behind this week's incident is that the killing was retaliation for the June 2023 murder of a rival crime boss named Vasilis Roubetis. Another is that the shooting was the result of rising tensions between Zambounis and other tobacco smugglers, particularly those from Eastern Europe. At the time of this recording, the situation is still under investigation, and no arrests have yet been made. Officials in Japan's Ehime prefecture say that they are on the hunt for an organized crime member this week after he allegedly gunned down a man inside of a coffee shop in broad daylight. According to reports, the brazen crime unfolded at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon on January 14th at a shopping center in the city of Shikokuchuo. The victim, later identified as 49-year-old Yuichiro Ishikawa, was sitting on the terrace of a Starbucks at the mall when he was approached by another man who proceeded to shoot him in the chest. Witnesses say they heard a loud bang, then looked over as Ishikawa stumbled outside of the coffee shop. He only made it a few steps before collapsing, where he soon died of his injuries. After launching an investigation, police announced that they were looking for a 64-year-old man, Yuichiro Meitani, in connection with the shooting. It's alleged that Meitani, who is said to be a member of the Yakuza syndicate Ikeda Gumi, was the man who carried out the murder. At the time of this recording, no official motive has been released behind the killing, though police have hinted that they believe the murder was related to organized crime. It's believed that the victim and the alleged shooter knew each other prior to the incident. Authorities in the German state of Hesse say that 2 people are dead this week, including the gunman, after a man shot and killed his ex-girlfriend in front of dozens of terrified witnesses while she was at work, before turning his weapon on himself. The disturbing incident unfolded on the evening of January 15th at an Aldi grocery store in the town of Mörfelden-Walldorf. It was around 7:15 p.m., and the 38-year-old victim, an employee identified by the name Int'l, was busy stocking shelves when suddenly she was approached by her 48-year-old ex-boyfriend, Plamen P. An argument began, one that quickly took a horrifying turn when witnesses say Plamen abruptly pulled out a handgun and fired 3 shots. At least one of the bullets struck Int'l in the head, killing her instantly. Moments later, the gunman ended the attack by turning his weapon on himself. The whole thing took place in front of dozens of horrified customers, as well as the victim's co-workers. According to reports, Int'l and Plamen were both originally from Bulgaria, but had each moved to Germany, where they met approximately a year and a half ago. They dated for about 5 months, though Int'l apparently broke things off during a visit back to their home country. Despite this, family and friends say that Plamen was unable to accept that the relationship was over. They now allege that for at least 6 months leading up to the murder, Int'l claimed that the 48-year-old had been stalking her. She said that she was scared about what might happen, and in a horrifying bit of foreshadowing, at one point apparently told her brother, quote, "I'll go to work and won't come home. He will come and kill me." Though the murder itself is awful enough on its own, the crime has since inspired further public outrage after police and government officials were accused of doing nothing to protect Int'l. This was despite the fact that she allegedly reported the stalking to police numerous times, hired a lawyer to take out a restraining order against Plammen, and even had a pending assault case against him. The 48-year-old was reportedly due to appear in court on February 15th in connection with an incident in which he allegedly showed up at Int'l's apartment unannounced and choked her. Those that knew the 38-year-old said that she was a lively, joyful, and friendly person who was very popular with those she worked with. Police say that they are still investigating the case, and at the moment aren't sure how Plammen was able to obtain the weapon used in the crime. Authorities in southern France say that a bizarre theft case that began more than 2 decades ago recently came to an equally strange end after the man responsible returned what he stole, accidentally giving himself away in the process. According to reports, it all started one night in April of 1999 when an iconic weather vane was stolen from the town of Bessan. The weather vane, which featured a large rooster and was made out of iron and had been painted gold, sat atop a 26-foot-tall Catholic mission cross, which was in the middle of the small town. While most people eventually forgot about the weather vane, there was one man who apparently couldn't let it go. That man, local historian Michel Sabatry, continued to write articles and keep the story of the stolen rooster alive, convinced that one day it would be found. Despite his conviction, I'm going to guess that even Sabatry was a little surprised at what happened next. In November of 2023, a package arrived out of the blue on his doorstep. Inside was the missing weather vane, along with a note that read, quote, "After a long journey, I am back on the land where I was born. Dear Bessan, I missed you. May my song resonate again." Fortunately for police, it wasn't hard to put the final missing piece of the puzzle into place. Though the thief had tried to send the package to Sabatry anonymously, he had paid for postage with his credit card, allowing investigators to quickly track him down. During an interview, the man explained that he had stolen the weather vane nearly 25 years ago during a night of drunken antics. When he woke up the next day, he was too ashamed to return it, so he stuffed it in his basement and forgot about it. A little while back, he came across it again while doing some cleaning, and decided that he wanted to try and make things right, so he sent it back. It appears that the man didn't need to bother with all the secrecy though, as it hasn't been possible to prosecute him for the crime for quite some time. The statute of limitations for petty theft in France is 6 years, so he wouldn't have faced any penalties as far back as 2005. Because of this, the man's name has not been released. Authorities in the Thai province of Ratburi say that they are investigating the aftermath of a terrifying and deadly tragedy this week after a disgruntled security guard allegedly killed 3 members of a rival company due to an ongoing dispute over a contract. The situation unfolded on January 13th at a power plant in Damnoen Saduak district. It began when the suspect, Bunlert Saisit, showed up at the facility and began attacking employees of HSR Pro Company, a security firm that had been hired to guard the place. Armed with a handgun, Saisit allegedly shot and killed 3 members of the security team, all of whom were men in their 50s. A 4th man was hit in the stomach by a stray bullet that was expected to survive. After carrying out the crime, Saisit reportedly fled the scene in a white Toyota truck. However, he was tracked down and arrested at his home a short time later. According to reports, the tragic and deadly incident was the result of an ongoing dispute between HSR Pro Company and the security company that Saisit worked for, known as Billion Guard. Initially, Billion Guard had been the sole company hired to guard the power plant where the crime took place. However, recently, HSR Pro Company had been brought in to assist. Police now allege that Saisit was angry about the way that things had played out and took out his frustration on the victims, who were just random employees of the rival company. At the time of this recording, Saisit remains in custody, though it's unclear if he has yet been formally charged. Authorities in the Netherlands say that 2 people are dead this week, and a man has been arrested for their murders after a year-long dispute over a real estate transaction allegedly boiled over into a terrifying shooting. The deadly situation began at around 8:45 on the morning of January 16th, when police received reports about gunfire outside of a home in Weiteveen, a village located right on the country's northeastern border with Germany. They arrived to find 2 victims, a man and a woman, both of whom had been shot and killed. So far, their names have not been released, though local news sources have identified them as a 38-year-old Polish man and a 44-year-old Dutch woman who were married. Police also announced that they had arrested the alleged gunman at the scene, a 50-year-old man identified as Richard K. Though the exact details of what transpired have not been confirmed at the time of this recording. According to witnesses, the attack took place during an argument outside the deceased couple's residence that morning. Richard allegedly shot the male victim first, then killed the female victim as she tried to escape. She apparently managed to get into a vehicle and began to drive away, though crashed into a tree because of icy conditions on the road. Richard allegedly shot her following the crash. Immediately after the shootings, the 50-year-old reportedly posted a video of himself to social media where he appeared frantic and offered a justification for his actions. In it, he claimed that the victims had been harassing him and his family for months and had repeatedly threatened them. He said that he did it to protect his wife and kids, at one point saying, quote, "The police can't do anything. The rule of law won't help you people. I love you all so much, I cannot let them kill you. If you are just 1% a father, then you will stop that from happening, so I will go to jail for the rest of my life as long as you are safe." The alleged harassment Richard was referring to apparently revolved around a real estate deal between him and the victims. Exactly 1 year ago, he had sold his parents' home to the couple, the same home that was the scene of this week's shootings. According to reports, the home sale initially went smoothly. However, things began to sour a few months later after the victims began to discover major issues with the property that they alleged hadn't been properly disclosed by Richard. The situation turned into an ongoing feud, one which many residents in the area said that they knew about. The real estate agent involved in the transaction apparently attempted to mediate between both parties, though seemingly to no avail. Currently, it appears that there are vastly different narratives about what happened over the past few months. Richard and his family claim that they were continuously terrorized and threatened by the victims, with the 50-year-old's wife taking to social media immediately after the shootings this week to allege that the couple had, quote, driven him crazy. Family members of the victims, meanwhile, say that Richard was the main aggressor and that he was making their lives unbearable. The 38-year-old victim's brother told the media that his brother and his sister-in-law had already been looking for a new home ahead of the deadly attack. At the time of this recording, the situation is still under investigation. Richard K. remains in custody, though it's unclear if he is yet facing formal charges. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.